Hiya, Vinyl Monkey here. The letter R. R, as well as being for some of the bands and records I'm going to put on shortly, is also, unfortunately, for racism. Why do I mention that in this channel? Well, I suppose partly because it's the Euros have started, the football, which is, you know, on the one hand great, but on the other hand, on this little island of ours, and particularly on this little part of this island we call England, every time there's a football tournament in which England take part, racist incidents and racist attacks multiplied considerably. So it's a big issue, and I suppose it's exemplified by the England fans who've been booing the anti-racist gesture that the players have been making at the beginning of the matches. And I was just thinking back through many of the artists who sang about racial justice and racial harmony, and you know, in this series so far, you know, from, I don't know, Jimmy Cliff to the Mighty Diamonds to Marvin Gaye to Linton Kwesi Johnson, those sorts of people, great songs about racial harmony, racial justice, but one common denominator, all of those and many others, they're black. And I just think, as white people, you know, as a white person, you need to speak out against racism. It's insidious, it's vile. We need to call it out and speak out against it. And I think, you know, to say nothing, to stay silent, is a racist act in itself. So in that way, I applaud Gareth Southgate, and you know, he's a good guy. He spoke out and he's intervened in this, and fair play to him. So you know, keep speaking out. Yeah. Anyway, on to the music. So there's lots of R's in there that I won't be playing as usual, but one of them I'm going to stick an apology in so I don't get into any sort of domestic strife, or less domestic strife, and there's no Todd Rundgren in there, despite the fact that there are about 5 or 6 Todd Rundgren albums behind me. I just listen to them, and I just can't get away with it. There's the odd glimmer here and there, but I don't know what it is, because the town I live in, Hartlepool, there are loads of people who love Todd Rundgren, Toddheads as they call them. It seems disproportionate to the population. I meet them everywhere, and I don't know why that would be. I sometimes, you know, I wonder whether there was some sort of bad batch of acid or something going around in the mid-70s that got people switched onto this. But for whatever reason, my partner loves Todd Rundgren, and I did try, but I just couldn't bring myself to put any in there. So what am I going to hold up today? Well, the reason I've got these glasses on is homage to my first album. This is a really cool album cover. I mean, how cool is it to wear sunglasses indoors? This is Sonny Rollins' A Night at the Village Vanguard, and I make no excuse for those of you who struggle with some of the jazz stuff I stick up. This is an absolute corker. It's one of the best jazz albums I've got in there. Sonny Rollins is a tenor sax player, and on this album he's backed very simply and sparsely and spartanly by Elvin Jones on drums and Wilbur Ware on bass, and it just leaves loads and loads of space for Rollins as sax player. And I'm not a musician, and I struggle to differentiate what's a good sax player or a good guitar player, whatever. I just like what I like in terms of listening, but this, it just seems inventive, it seems subtle, it seems magical in many ways, and I can listen to this. It's a really cool album. I particularly love the track Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, and the last track, I Can't Get Started. So Sonny Rollins, A Night at the Village Vanguard, 1958. Take the glasses off now. The second one, I did struggle thinking about which Roxy music album to put up. I've got all of Roxy's early albums. I've seen them a couple of times in the sort of mid-70s. Brilliant live band, and pioneering in many ways. They're a great band with Manzanera on guitar, Brian Eno on keyboards, and of course Brian Ferry on vocals. Andrew Mackay on sax, Paul Thompson drums. Yeah, just a brilliant new type of sound. And anyway, eventually I picked this, their second album, For Your Pleasure, which is, yeah, they're all good albums, but this I think possibly edges it over the first album for me. And standout tracks for me, probably all on side one. The opener, Do the Strand. The second track, absolutely beautiful, Beauty Queen. And then the last track, the sort of strange track, In Every Dream Home a Heartache. So that's Roxy Music, For Your Pleasure, 1973. The next one, God, what an album, what an album. Charlie Rich, Behind Closed Doors, also from 1973. You'll be familiar with the two hit singles from this album, the title track, Behind Closed Doors, and The Most Beautiful Girl, which were both hit singles. Charlie Rich started out, he was a very reluctant performer apparently. He started out as a session musician and a songwriter for lots of other people from Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis. He was writing songs for all sorts of stars, but he's such a beautiful songwriter, and what a singer. There's a famous line in a Tom Waits song where Tom Waits had supported Charlie Rich, I think, on tour back in the early 70s, and he says, what Tom Waits said, the radio spitting out Charlie Rich, he sure can sing, that son of a bitch. And he sure can sing. I mean, his voice is, it's like Elvis, but more subtle, with jazzier inflections. And it's just, I don't know, every track on this album, it starts with an opening couple of bars of music, and then as soon as his voice kicks in on every track, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Such is the quality of his singing voice. It's absolutely beautiful. It's an album that if you're in love, you know, you'll really enjoy this album, or maybe if you want to remember what it felt like to be in love. But sadly Charlie Rich died. The drink got the better of him. He developed quite a significant drink problem. He struggled on until 62-year-old. But what a brilliant songwriter, singer, piano player, musician generally. Brilliant album, Behind Closed Doors, 1973. Next one, God, this what a letter this is. These are absolutely stunning albums. This is Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers from 1977. 77. I remember going on a holiday to Great Yarmouth with some mates, and I was into punk at the time, and I was wearing what was I wearing? I had a black Crombie, black t-shirt with sort of safety pins in ears, and I just had a pair of black undies and Doc Martens on. I had no trousers on because I think I got them soaked earlier in the day mucking about in the sea. And anyway, we went out, and there was only one pub, surprisingly, that would let us in dressed like that. And I went to the jukebox, and I don't know whether it was 10 records for £1 or whatever, or 10 for 50 pence or something in those days, but I stuck the money in, and I put 20 times I put the same song on, which was Jonathan Richman's Roadrunner. And anyway, after about the 4th or 5th time it came on, the landlord came out and pulled the plug out of the jukebox. Much to my annoyance, and we ended up getting thrown out of that pub, the only pub that would let us in. So yeah, but since then I've seen Jonathan Richman on several occasions. What a performer. I talk about authenticity and integrity sometimes on this channel. He has it in bucket loads, whether he's singing his naive sort of songs, I Am a Little Aeroplane, Hey There Little Insect, I'm a Little Dinosaur, My Little Cook and Hark, and all of those sort of childlike, naive songs, but he sings them with such, yeah, authenticity. Absolutely beautiful. And the last track on here, I mean, listen to that, The Morning of Our Lives. It's got to be the best use of a bit of black plastic or vinyl ever. And it's, yeah, absolutely sublime. So Jonathan Richmond, Modern Lovers Live from 1977. The next one, Leon Redbone. Seen this guy on the whistle test also in 77, and he just blew me away. He's a brilliant guitarist, and what he does is he interprets songs from the first 20 years of the 20th century, so the 1900s and 1910s. You know, old standards like The Sheik of Araby and If We Never Meet Again This Side of Heaven, and yeah, just absolutely beautiful old, you know, Jelly Roll Morton, those sorts of people, and he does it with such class and style. And this is his second album. I think it's the favourite for me, partly because it's the first one I got of his. That's Redbone there. He died a couple of years ago, I think aged about 69 or 70, but beautiful stuff. Reminder that, you know, great songs didn't start in the 60s and 70s, that they were around long before that. Leon Redbone, Double Time, 1977. And then lastly, Jerryrafferty, City to City from 1978. Jerryrafferty, Baker Street, of course, the famous hit single with the famous saxophone break in it. But Jerryrafferty, brilliant singer, songwriter, musician, and this is an absolutely lovely album. Don't just listen to Baker Street, listen to any other track on this album. I don't know, Right Down the Line, that's a lovely track. Jerryrafferty started in a band, one of the worst named pop bands ever, the Humble Bums, I think, with Billy Conroy, and then went on to Stealers Wheel, of course, had that hit with Stuck in the Middle with You. And I totally dismissed this album at the time, partly because I was into punk rock, and it is a pretty naff album cover, and I thought, oh, it's just sort of soft pop, soft rock. It's old hat. You know, he looks a bit square on the front there, and yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best album cover at all, and so I sort of dismissed it out of hand. But I've got to tell you, I was wrong, absolutely wrong. This is a cracking LP, City to City, Jerryrafferty. Okay, so that's the letter R. We're getting there through the alphabet. Next time it's S, of course. Hope you might join me for that. Cheers.